Hi, Sandy.
Hi. I would just like to add to Amy's comment because in the past 5 days, the Coca-Cola Company, Pepsi, Intuit, and Kraft Foods have withdrawn their memberships from ALEC because of some negative things that they are seeing based on those withdrawals of those major companies. I was just wondering about your continued support of ALEC, and I think you answered that question by responding to Amy's.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's some controversy in and around ALEC, but I'm not sure why there isn't an NCSL then, or Council of State Governments, or the state. You know, I don't know why.
I guess personally, for me, I don't know about those two other groups, but when I read about a group that has closed door sessions between heads of corporations and state legislators, I'm not convinced that the bills that come out of those kinds of meetings address the needs of people here in Jefferson County. And I'm concerned about big corporation influence on what's being done in our state legislatures. I think that's why that has become something that people are becoming more and more aware of and are also becoming more and more concerned about. And will be paying attention to as time goes on. 6 months ago, I didn't know that this even existed. And when I ask people in our community, have you ever heard of ALEC? And they'll say no, and I just give them my thumbnail description. They're like, really? There's a group that exists like that? And I encourage them to go to alec.org and find out about it, but also to go to the website alecexposed.org and read about the other side of it and then form their own opinions. My personal opinion is that I'm really concerned about a group like that being, like I said, holding closed door sessions and promoting legislation that I'm not sure benefits us in the district that you represent.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Dean Wichman? Whiteman? Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask you, discuss with you a little bit about levy limits. They've been in place. They have caused problems, I would say, in a lot of our small units of government because the representatives that are elected to serve these small governments can't do what they need to do because they're restricted by law. We've made it, the legislature has made it difficult for those governments to exceed limits. They can do it with great difficulty. That's taking away those representatives' authority.
Right.
So I'd like you to reverse that, to give those representatives back their authority.
Yeah. No, it's a good comment, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think that there have been, some discussions about are the levy limits too tight, and whether or not it does allow local levels of government the flexibility they need to operate. Now,
It does not.
with a Republican Assembly and Senate, I think it would be difficult to make a significant change to that, but I think unused levy being carried forward, certainly, the ability for more flexibilities is something that I think will continue to be discussed. I am very concerned about the next state budget. This budget is behind us. This budget right now, I think, is showing that, and I apologize if somebody was at the last meeting we just had in Cambridge because we talked about this, but I'm concerned that as we move forward, what we're seeing is that both sales tax and income tax revenues are flat. And therefore, when you look at shared revenue, you look at, the school aid formula, you look at some of the other, dispersed revenues in the next state budget, it's going to be very, very difficult. Unless there is a real significant turnaround, not just in Wisconsin, but nationwide in the economy. And if that doesn't happen soon, this next budget is going to be just as difficult, if not more, than what we just saw. I mean, I just read this morning, there's school districts right now that are worried about this next budget and have issued those layoff
So why are there levy limits there to prevent local governments from raising their own property taxes or whatever? Sales tax is a possibility to an county. Why can't they just, why are they restricted? Why cannot they, us as local people, get the services we want? So let's say we want to repair our township roads, we can't do it. We're restricted by levy limits.
Because I think it's a pretty simple premise that if there's a reduction in local aid, if there's a reduction in shared revenue, that simply will be passed on to the property tax bill. I mean, that's why we've had that in the past as well, is that if that's the case, it's pretty difficult to go back to the taxpayers and say, listen, we reduced or we made changes at the state level. Part of it is because all the revenue is collected at the state level and then divvied out. And you don't have that in some other states as well. I mean, that's really the difficulty. You don't have the revenue stream other than the levy to continue to increase the amount of, revenue you have available for service.
Well, that's the other thing. Why is it that local governments are restricted to property tax? Why are they not allowed to collect income taxes, for example?
Wheel taxes, yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of, over the years there's been discussion about that. I just don't see the momentum for that type of change. It'd be very difficult, I think, to get a bill through or to put that in the state budget that would actually pass. It would be difficult. And it would be very difficult with a Republican-controlled legislature.
Well, I want to reiterate, I think that a change should be made. I would like you to say you would support that change.
Well, I won't say that now, but what I will say is, I'd love to talk to you about, ideas you might have about that or the restrictions that you feel you guys are under right now. So, I'm assuming you're a town official.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I just looked into it, and I've been looking into it, and I found that, we can exceed our levy limits, but then unless we go through referendum to approve that, there's a lot of hoops to go through, and you got to do it exactly right. You'll be penalized. If you don't, and penalized 100%.
Right.
That is, if we raise taxes and don't get it exactly right, we'll be penalized in state aid 100% of what we raise in taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, gee, penalize us, but penalize 100%?
Yeah, the idea was that in the past you had communities and municipalities, counties, everybody that would participate in a program in which they would keep their costs down and their spending down. Suddenly on the back end, when you had a change in public policy in the budget, they would be penalized for that. And it didn't make any sense. The more frugal city councils were penalized for it.
That's exactly, you're making my case for me then.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That was a program.
Give the authority back to local governments.
Gotcha. Very good. Thank you. Derek Martin?
Yep, I don't make you go through it again.
Okay.
On the mining bill, we already talked a lot.
On the mining bill? Okay. Okay, very good. Very good. York? Last name York? Is it Fred?
Fred.
Fred, yeah, Fred, go ahead.
Two things, one clarification and then a question about the mining bill. We'll bring it back to that.
Okay.
One is the young lady asked you about the outside, the state money coming into you. Since Wisconsin is underneath the microscope throughout the nation, it's fair to also, which I think you should mention, is that the counterparts here, the anti-Walker, anti-Fitz program, there's a lot of outside money, outside the state money coming to support them.
Sure. There is, there's a lot of outside money coming into the state right now.
But yes, I just want to make sure that everybody understood that point. And my question then would be, the mining part, the young lady behind me mentioned that she's concerned about the water quality up in the northern,
Right.
my sister lives in Ashland, et cetera, and she's trying desperately to sell her house so she can move down to Jefferson to be with the rest of the family. But, so they are looking, a lot of people are up there just begging for this mining program to go through. But as an environmentalist myself, I don't want the water or environment to be damaged either. So share with us what the actual findings were on what bad parts or the findings for the water would have shown from this particular mine. And isn't there a similar mine in Minnesota that is doing very well?
Yeah, there's definitely mining operations that have been functioning and operating for years and years in both Michigan and Minnesota.
With quality water?
Yeah, we had some legislators that actually had gone up and visited with the companies that do mining operations in Minnesota. And, for them, they're currently, the problem, I guess, that we have in Wisconsin is, over the years, the laws that we have in place, the current law on mining is so restrictive, so restrictive, that it basically smothered the industry. We had the industry. This was a mining state.
Excuse me, Scott, real quick. One of the symbols on our flag is a miner.
Right.
So, yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
mining has been the history of this state.
But the statutes evolved in a way over many years that they kept continuing to constrict and reduce the ability of any corporation wanting to do any type of mining, per se, in the state. And I think I was around for the Crandon mine and that discussion and that debate that really went from environmentalists being concerned about the environment to sportsmen, and that really was a deep wound, I think, for many legislators who went through that debate and that discussion on the mining moratorium. It was not a proud moment, I think, for the legislature, and because of that, that was 19 years ago, and it's taken that long for us to kind of come back to this discussion again. But now that we're there, I am concerned that it could kind of slip through our fingers and we'll fumble it and not get the job done. So I'm optimistic we can come back and in a bipartisan way pass a bill. But it's going to take a lot of work and some heavy lifting on both sides of the aisle to get that done at this point.
But as far as the watershed, et cetera.
Yeah,
You're comfortable.
And I'm not an expert on mining and I'm not an expert on the processes, but certainly what I know is that it is a contained system. There's no disbursement of water that will come from the mine itself.
It's not the idea of an open.
It's
Well,
not,
pit.
no.
Okay,
It's a much different type of mine, and because of that, the DNR would not issue any permit unless that could be proven. So that was all part of our discussion from the beginning, is that there's going to be no, and also setbacks on where tailings or any type of, topsoil or anything that would be disturbed as a result of the mine being built. It was fairly restrictive on how they needed to handle that and what the corporation had to do. And again, all this is in the backdrop of this is just to apply for the permit. The DNR will not issue unless this corporation meets each and every standard that's laid out. And I think that was kind of lost in that discussion. But I'm still hopeful we could get something done. Okay, thank you, sir. George Nim.
Right here. Two things, Senator. First of all, keep those revenue caps and tax limits on local governments, because I know firsthand that we are attempting to take over those local governments, and they have no qualms in raising taxes. We'll be the victims. The other thing is...
Did you guys come here together? Sit next to him?
We're going to duke it out, man.
The other thing is, I read in the Daily Times a letter to the editor a couple months ago, and in it, the person writing made an accusation, used your name, and Republicans in the legislature saying that Act 10 was passed and it doesn't affect you. And I'm almost positive that you have to pay toward your pension, and you also have to pay toward your health insurance, and I believe your wife does too now. Could you kind of give us a total impact, like in dollars and cents, that this is costing your family?
Well,
That's a deferred compensation bonus too.
just in general, the legislature itself, yeah,